それなりに修羅場はくぐってるしね、私たちって。
それにこんだけ数がいるんだぜ。余裕だっつの。
確かにフローラモンたちがいれば平気かも。
こいつらの力があればちょっとやそっとのことくらい問題ねえだろ。
それは君たちの獣が強いからそう言えるんだろう。とにかく反対だ。わざわざ危険に飛び込むことはない。他の方法を探すべきだ。
いや、今はこれが最善だ。敵の本拠地に乗り込んで手っ取り早く情報を聞き出すべきだ。
なあタクマ、これまとまらねえんじゃね？お前の意見言ってみてくれよ。
ミノリやカイトの言う通り、敵の本拠地に行くべきだ。
やっぱそうだよな。
でもそれって戦うことになるよね。私は戦わないで済むならそうしたいけど。
もちろん襲われる危険はあるだろうけど、それはここにいても同じだし、それに敵の親玉を倒すのが目的じゃないよ。話を聞いて危なそうなら逃げればいいし。
そういうことならしんがりは任せてくれ。逃げ道を作るくらい造作もない。
なるほどね。まあそういうことならあんまり危なくはなさそうかな。
君たちはそうやって僕の意見を無視して、僕の獣が弱いからか、僕が戦えないから。僕は常に正しく強くあり、みんなを導いていかなければならないのに。
修二、大丈夫？
とにかく僕たちには敵がいて戦わないとならない。そのために協力しないとならないんだ。僕たちが無事に帰るためにも。
帰れる可能性はあるんだもんな。
わけわかんないまま生贄にされるなんて絶対に嫌だもんね。
僕はもう一度校舎内を探しに行く。みんなも何か対策しておくように。
待ってよ
ー。何も見つからなかったって話だったじゃん。
そういう言い方は良くないぞ。修二は立派に務めを果たしている。
修二さんは頑張ってるわ。私なんかよりよっぽど。
葵はちゃんとやってるわ。自信を持って。
Advent of the ARCHMAGE Chapter 1 If Our
僕たちはどうする？
物を探すのも大切だけど、みんなに話を聞いて状況をまとめたいん
Advent
だ。
of the
アグモンは自由に
ARCHMAGE
してていい
Chapter
よ。
1 If Aldo player doesn't work, press reset or reload the page. Technologia do Traduta Chapter 1 Legend in the Flesh. Translator Nyoibo Studio Editor. Advent of the ARCHMAGE Chapter 1 If Aldo player doesn't work, press reset or reload the page. Technologia do Traduta Chapter 1 Legend in the Flesh. Translator Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio. It was a cold night. Towards the north, in the northwest corner of a little city called Gladstone, sat the Lower Magic Academy of Flemings. In the darkest corner on the third floor of its apprentice dorm stood room 309. Blankets were thrown up in a flurry. A black-haired, thin and frail-looking young man sat up with a jolt. The moonlight shone in through the glass window panes, casting a pale white sheen onto his face. Am I really in the world of Pheroman now? A world of darkness, dying gods, that bloody night, the flashing magical lights, saving the world. Was that all real? The young man's head was in chaos. Utter chaos. His name was Link. He was from Earth. At least, he had been, up until just an hour ago. Just recently, he was still in his own home on Earth, playing the game Legend. Legend had been the most popular online virtual reality game on Earth. It was about a world in a tragic state, slowly being taken over by the dark side. In the game, he had been the first ever Archmage, as well as the head magician of its largest guild, the Guild of Starry Dreams. Just before this, he had challenged the game's ultimate boss, the Lord of the Deep, Nezama. Nezama was a mighty demigod. He was one of the 3 overlords of the Dark Army in the mortal realm. Link's battle with Nezama had been an arduous one. Of his team of more than 110 players, only Link was left standing. By that time, Nezama had worn down his health to the point of almost finishing him off. Towards the end, Link unlocked the god-level item, the Archangel's Sword. Immense power surged through him, and he became temporarily invincible for 5 seconds. In those 5 seconds, Link and the frenzied boss clashed, each using 3 fingers of death on each other. Finger of Death. Level 19 legendary spell. Effect. When it hits a target, it will carry out divine judgment, magical judgment, according to the condition of the target's body. There is a very large chance that it will cause the target to experience sudden death. The version used by the game player is basic. It can only be used when the boss health is below a certain level. The scary thing about this spell was that it judged its targets regardless of their skill level. If the spell's judgment was successful, even a god would be killed on the spot. Link and Nezama's Fingers of Death activated at the same time. They both had literally fought each other to their deaths. Strangely enough, Link's avatar hadn't been resurrected at the graveyard. Instead, it entered a dark, eerie dimension. In this dimension, there was a luminescent but dim ball of light. It claimed to be the god of light hailing from the Legion of Light, a realm in the world of Pheroman far away on the verge of defeat. As its supreme god, his powers had been weakened to the point of death, and he begged Link to save his beloved world of Pheroman. Link just listened. Who could believe such a ridiculous thing as saving a world? He thought that this was a cutscene that had been activated by slaying the ultimate boss. Full of pride after having just slain the boss, Link had somehow actually agreed to the god's plea. This caused him to be banished to this godforsaken, wretched place. Under the silver moonlight, Link looked about and was able to make out the room around him. The room was neither large nor small, 100 or so square feet. By the window were a distinctively foreign-looking bookshelf and chair. A single bed had Advent of the ARCHMAGE, Chapter 1. If Audio Player doesn't work, press Translator. In the darkest corner on the 3rd floor of it, blankets were thrown up the moonlight shone in through the glass window panes, casting a pale white sheen onto his face. Am I really in the world of Pheroman now? A world of darkness, dying gods, that bloody night, the flashing magical lights, saving the world. Was that all real? The young man's head was in chaos. Utter chaos. His name was Link. He was from Earth. At least, he had been, up until just an hour ago. Just recently, he was still in his own home on Earth, playing the game Legend. Legend had been the most popular online virtual reality game on Earth. It was about a world in a tragic state, slowly being taken over by the dark side. In the game, he had been the first ever Archmage, as well as the head magician of its largest guild, the Guild of Starry Dreams. Just before this, he had challenged the game's ultimate boss, the Lord of the Deep, Nezama. Nezama was a mighty demigod. He was one of the 3 overlords of the Dark Army in the mortal realm. Link's battle with Nezama had been an arduous one. Of his team of more than 110 players, only Link was left standing. By that time, Nezama had worn down his health to the point of almost finishing him off. Towards the end, Link unlocked the god-level item, the Archangel's Sword. Immense power surged through him, and he became temporarily invincible for 5 seconds. In those 5 seconds, Link and the frenzied boss clashed, each using 3 fingers of death on each other. Finger of Death. Level 19 legendary spell. Effect. When it hits a target, it will carry out Divine Judgment, Magical Judgment, according to the condition of the target's body. There is a very large chance that it will cause the target to experience sudden death. The version used by the game player is basic. It can only be used when the boss health is below a certain level. The scary thing about this spell was that it judged its targets regardless of their skill level. If the spell's judgment was successful, even a god would be killed on the spot. Link and Nezama's fingers of death activated at the same time. They both had literally fought each other to their deaths. Strangely enough, Link's avatar hadn't been resurrected at the graveyard. Instead, it entered a dark, eerie dimension. In this dimension, there was a luminescent but dim ball of light. It claimed to be the god of light hailing from the Legion of Light, a realm in the world of Firaman far away on the verge of defeat. As its supreme god, his powers had been weakened to the point of death, and he begged Link to save his beloved world of Firaman. Link just listened. Who could believe such a ridiculous thing as saving a world? He thought that this was a cutscene that had been activated by slaying the ultimate boss. Full of pride after having just slain the boss, Link had somehow actually agreed to the god's plea. This caused him to be banished to this godforsaken, wretched place. Under the silver moonlight, Link looked about and was able to make out the room around him. The room was neither large nor small, 100 or so square feet. By the window were a distinctively foreign-looking bookshelf and chair. A single bed had been placed against the wall, and at the head of the bed, there was a storage chest. That was all. There were 3 books on the bookshelf. Link found that he could recognize their names very quickly: Elemental Magic, The World's Equilibrium, and Light and Dark. All of them were basic learning materials from the Academy's library. More memories began flooding into his head. This body had also been called Link. It was the youngest son of a small baron in the eastern dunes of the Norton Kingdom. He was 17 this year, introverted and taciturn. He had only learned an extremely basic trick, level 0 apprentice spell, throughout his half a year in the Magic Academy, the Magician's Hand. He was a hermit in the academy. Almost no one noticed him. But none of that was relevant now. Jumping down from the bed, without even bothering to put on any shoes, Link strode over to the calendar hanging by the table. Clearly inscribed on the calendar of vellum was today's date. The Light Ages, the year 1056, the 9th day of the 10th month. Link gasped. It seemed to be just a normal day, but after today, it would be carved into the history of the world of Firaman for all eternity. Because late tonight, the vanguard of the Dark Elves would succeed in ambushing Gladstone City. They would follow it up with the atrocious massacre of the whole city. 150,000 people would be wiped out within a day and a night, their souls sacrificed to the Dark Elves goddess. The Spider Queen, lol. There would be less than 1,000 survivors. After the sacrificial ritual, the corpses would be thrown into the Gladstone River beside the city. The river would nearly be cut off by the dam of corpses, the water stained red with blood. Gladstone was reduced to rubble that night. This incident was known as the Change of the Bloody Moon. Soon, a war swept over the entire world of Firaman. The Dark Ages had arrived. 20 years later, there were still no signs of it ending anytime soon. In fact, it only seemed to have gotten worse. All this had been a part of the background history of the game legend. After comparing what he knew with the memories of his body, Link realized that this world he was in was almost identical to the world in legend. The only difference was the time. It had been the year 1076 in the game. The Legion of Light had been on the retreat, losing more battles than winning, its territory steadily shrinking. There had also been constant internal squabbles, leaving it in extremely poor condition. Now, the world was just about to face the beginning of the disaster. The change of the bloody moon would happen tonight. Cold to his core, Link turned to see a pocket watch lying on the chest by the bed. He rushed over and picked it up. It had been made by the dwarves. Opening it, the watch hands glowed in the dark. He could tell the time very easily. It was 9:35 at night. There's less than an hour. The Dark Elves' attack will start soon. Link thought, his heart beat quickening. This night, the Dark Elves had been the ones to deal the first blow. They had snuck into Gladstone City in disguises, carrying out an intricate assassination scheme. In the game's lore, the assassination had been carried out at 10:30 p.m. and went on for an hour. Within that 1 hour, 99% of the leaders of the city had been murdered, leaving the rest mortally injured. When the Dark Elves began their main attack, the city was already in turmoil. The Dark Elf army hadn't come across any significant resistance. How did he know all of this so well? Because in the game Legend, every beginner had to go through the change of the Bloody Moon as part of their first mission. Their mission was to escape Gladstone. How can I save myself? Link paced the room, asking himself over and over again. He would be experiencing a city's massacre in a foreign world. If he didn't run, by morning, he would definitely be one of the corpses in Gladstone River. Thinking of the events he knew were about to happen made Link break out into a cold sweat. But as the only Archmage in the game, he was very strong in mind. Shocked, but still managing to keep his resolve, he had no real resentments about being placed in such a tight situation. Once he had processed what was going on, he began to think of a strategy to get himself out of his current circumstance. Suddenly, Link's heart skipped a beat. A glowing numeral had appeared in his head. It was the number 20. These are Omni points. The God of Light had told the truth. Link felt his spirits lift. In the game, the God of Light had been the main god of the Legion of Light. It was the same in this world, Link confirmed with a quick review of his memories. In the strange dimension that he had been in before being teleported to this world, the God of Light said that for him to leave Gladstone safely, he would receive 20 points. With them, he would be able to quickly grasp the power of magic. Link's eyes lit up. He had been an Archmage in a game. He had no idea how magic actually worked. If he were to truly master magic, he would have to study at a magic academy. And that would require a huge amount of time, which he didn't have. How did I use Omni points? He asked immediately. Something flashed in the corner of his eye. Link found a line of glowing text appear at the border of his vision. It was exactly the same as in the game. The text started scrolling. The gaming system is loading. Loading completed. Scanning body stats. Scan completed. Game player, Link Morani, Noble. Title, Magician's Apprentice. Magic recovery speed, 0.2 points per hour. Maximum mana, 1. Mana consumption follows the Omni points chart. List of mastered spells. Level 0 the Magician's Hand, 0.2 mana per use. Current gear, none. Link was dumbfounded. What is this? It's so similar to the game's user interface. Anyways, this body is seriously trash. There's almost no difference between this body and a commoner's. The gaming system went on to give him a thorough explanation. To help the game player adapt to the real world of Firaman, the game player's body is integrated into the gaming system. The gaming system will give the game player missions, from which the game player can gain Omni points. But what can Omni points be used for? The interface refreshed to show new information. Omni points can be used to change the game player's body stats. Exchange ratio. 1 Omni point equals 1 mana speed recovery equals 10 maximum mana points. Omni points can be used to purchase spells. The spell prices are as shown below. Mortal spells. Level 0 spells equals 1 Omni point. Level 1 spells equals 10 Omni points. Level 2 spells equals 20 Omni points. Level 10 spells equals 100 Omni points, and so on. Legendary spells. Level 11 spells equals 500 Omni points. Level 12 spells equals 1000 Omni points. Level 13 spells equals 2000 Omni points. Level 19 legendary pinnacle spells equals 128,000 Omni points, and so on. Demigod divine spells, locked. Okay, this definitely made things clear. That is to say, as long as Link completed the missions given to him by the gaming system, he would receive Omni points and continue getting stronger until he reached the legendary pinnacle of level 19. Of course, that would all be in the future. Right now, Link only had 20 Omni points. He needed to use his Omni points wisely in order to escape from Gladstone safely. In the game, Link had chosen to be a magician. This was why his starting point to escape Gladstone City had been the Lower Magic Academy of Flemings. On the night of the change of the Bloody Moon, the Magic Academy had been one of the places in which the Dark Elves prioritized their attack. The Magic Academy was very small. It had less than 100 pupils, and of that 100, less than 20 were full-fledged magicians. The best among those magicians was only level 4. Yet, more than 200 assassins had been dispatched here. There were at least 20 already in hiding around the place. Half of the Academy's tutors had been killed in their sleep. Some of them had woken up but had been unable to fight off the throngs of assassins. As a result, the Magic Academy had fallen and its apprentices massacred. It had been a real bloodbath. Remembering the details of his last escape, Link decided to purchase some of the spells he had used back then first. Summon spell menu. Many glowing cards appeared in his field of vision. Slowly rotating, each of the cards was a spell. The number on the upper left corner of the card indicated the mana cost, while the number on the card's upper right corner indicated the spell's level. Every spell was there, up to more than 1,000 of them. The higher the level of magic, the brighter the card glowed. The legendary spell cards nearly blinded Link. In a sweeping glance, Link spotted Finger of Death, Doomsday Meteor and Greater Ruin. All famous, and all legendary. I was done in by that God of Light. If I had 2,000 Omni points, I would be able to win this battle single-handedly. But I only have 20 points. Considering how weak the God of Light had looked, it had probably been difficult to just send him here. Giving him 20 points wasn't bad at all. Any more and that sad old fellow might have died on the spot. Filter. Show only level 0 spells. High-level spells were powerful, but he couldn't afford any of them. Just one level 1 spell cost 10 Omni points, and their mana consumption was much higher than a level 0 spell. As for level 2 spells, they cost 20 Omni points and used 30 mana. The price and cost of using any of them were too high for Link to sustain. He didn't even consider them. Level 0 tricks were also known as apprentice spells. If not done well, they were just smoke and mirrors. Used properly, they could kill. He had also chosen them because despite being much less powerful, tricks required less casting time than the higher level spells. Link could cast a level 0 spell in 0.1 seconds. For a level 1 spell, he needed at least 0.3 seconds. And he needed 1 full second for level 3 spells. That was far too long, completely unsuitable for a lone magician. Whoosh. The bright magic cards disappeared, leaving some tens of dimly glowing cards behind. All of them had the number 0 inscribed on their upper right corner. Link looked through them all one by one. Finally, he settled on 4 level 0 spells. Purchase Fireball, Earth Spike, Lesser Invisibility, Slumber. Instantly, those magic cards lit up brightly. They shattered into countless little pinpoints of light, then disappeared into thin air. Link felt his consciousness blur for a split second, then recover. He suddenly found that he was very familiar with the 4 level 0 spells. If he wanted, he could have passed any of them in an instant. That's it, he thought. The sensation of having learned a spell is exactly the same as back in the game. The familiar sensation gave Link a sense of comfort. After purchasing the 4 spells, Link spent another 2 Omni points on maximum mana points in order to be able to use his mana. His maximum mana became 21 points, enough to use a level 0 spell 10 times. After converting the Omni points, he felt the full level of mana surge through his body and heaved a sigh of relief. The gaming system was quite reliable. The mana in his body had been filled automatically the first time he increased his maximum mana. If it had been empty, it would have needed time to recover. Link's mana recovery speed of 0.2 mana points per hour made it virtually useless to wait for that to happen. Now, he was left with 14 Omni points. Looking down at his pocket watch, just 5 minutes had passed. It was now 9:40. The assassination would begin in an hour. Before that, it would be safe inside the apprentice's dorm. But outside, the assassins were sure to be in their positions, ready and waiting. Running out now would be as good as suicide. In the gaming world, to escape from the academy, one had to wait for the assassination to begin. The academy would be in chaos. That was the only way of escaping, and surviving. There's still an hour left. What should I do? Link racked his brains. Save the others? Persuade the apprentices to escape with him? That was pointless. Link was a nobody in the Magic Academy. Who would listen to someone who had only mastered one pitiful little trick? They would just take him for a madman. Get some gear to augment his powers as much as he could? Yes, that was a good idea. Advent of the ARCHMAGE, Chapter 2, The New Moon Wand. If Auto Player doesn't work, press reset or reload the page. Technologia do Traduta, Chapter 2, The New Moon Wand. Translator, NoCommentary Studio Editor, NoCommentary Studio. How could one get strong fast in the world of Pheromoon? Well, there were 3 ways: gear, potions, and buffs. The apprentices' dorm lodged only apprentices. Their magical abilities were so low that he didn't even need to think about buffs. Link didn't bother much about potions either. There were no alchemy laboratories in the apprentices' dorm. More than 150 feet lay between the apprentices' dorm and the closest alchemy laboratory, an impossible distance to cover in the dark, with assassins at every turn waiting to strike. The last and only viable option was gear. What was the most important gear for a magician? A tool to compress mana. In layman's terms, a wand. A magician could use magic without a wand, but magicians had frail bodies. Unable to concentrate mana strongly within their bodies, the magic they used would be very weak. This made it necessary to rely on outside help. That is, wands. For example, a level 0 fireball, cast by a magician's apprentice, would be roughly equivalent to a firecracker. But if the magician's apprentice were to use a wand, even a common one, he would be able to do much, much more. The firecracker would become a large firework, perhaps even a grenade. And there would be no change in the mana consumed. The secret was all in the wand. It simply compressed the mana. If one were to liken magic to a bullet, wands would be guns. The quality of the gun determined the impact of the bullet. Wands were extremely expensive. The cheapest wand cost 100 gold coins. Link was just a small noble and the youngest son in his family. He had little talent in magic and had no way of getting his hands on a luxury item like that. He didn't have one, but others in the dorm certainly did. There were more than 50 magicians' apprentices in the apprentices' dorm, most of whom were loaded. At least 20 of them had wands, the best of which belonged to an apprentice named Grant. Link knew that the wand was called New Moon. It was one of the earlier works of the wand master Hermira, and was worth more than 1,000 gold coins. It had been Grant's coming-of-age present from his father, a duke, to his beloved son. It was rumored that Grant loved his wand so much that he even hugged it to sleep. Link's target was the New Moon wand. He acted immediately. Link put on the clothes by the bedside. He froze halfway. These were the apprentice robes given out by the Magic Academy. The material and design were unique. His identity as an apprentice of the Magic Academy would be obvious to all who saw the robes. Normally, this wouldn't be a problem. But tonight, the more eye-catching he was, the faster he'd die. Throwing off the apprentice robe, Link opened the chest and dug out a grey robe. It was his own. There was nothing special about it. Wearing it, he would be able to blend into any crowd without standing out. Link set out after putting on his shoes. Most magicians liked towers. The apprentice's dorm was a tower with 5 floors, each of which had 10 rooms arranged in a circle. Walking out, Link found himself in a round hall about 30 feet in diameter. It was dimly lit by a ball of light that floated above the hall. It was 9:45. For magicians, who tended to sleep early, it was already bedtime. Following the spiral stone stairs to the second floor, Link found his way to Grant's room and knocked on the door lightly. There was no response. Grant was probably fast asleep. Hesitating, Link stopped knocking. It might wake the other apprentices. Considering what he had in mind, that wasn't a good thing. Reaching out, he laid a hand on the lock. Link activated the Magician's Hand. The Magician's Hand. Mana consumption, 0.2 points. Level 0 trick. Effect. Move objects without physical contact, a technique magicians often use to show off. The Magician's Hand had been the only magic that the original Link had known. It was very simple and cost only 0.2 mana points. The apprentice's dorm used standard locks. Opening one with the Magician's Hand was as easy as pie. 5 seconds later, the door opened with a click. The wooden door let out a slight squeak as Link gently pushed it open. For someone stealing for the first time in their life, the noise would be extremely jarring. But not for Link. As someone who had managed to become the first Archmage in the virtual reality game, he was, mentally, as strong as a rock. Without flinching, he pushed the door open, walked in and closed the door with a light hand. He did all this as naturally as entering his own room. The interior was very dark, the arrangement similar to his own. However, the furniture was much more ornate than those that Link owned. The academy didn't provide its pupils with furniture. Grant had bought these himself. Grant laid on the bed, fast asleep. The rumors had been true. He loved his wand so much that he clasped it tightly even in his sleep. It would have been a difficult situation for a real thief. But not so for Link. He knew that the massacre would effectively erase anything else that happened in the city. No one would care about anything else. There were no repercussions for him to fear. Walking up to Grant's bed, he swung his hand at Grant's handsome face. The slap landed heavily on Grant's face with a resounding smack. That was for the original Link. This Grant had often picked on the original Link. Once, he had even pulled a prank that caused Link to break an arm. Grant's father was a duke, so the young man had chosen to suffer in silence. But the Link now would never do that. With that slap, Grant woke up, startled, and jumped up from the bed. Pressing a hand to his cheek, he looked around, yelling, "What's going on? What's going on?" He was still hazy from sleep, not fully understanding the situation. During all this, he relaxed his grip on the wand in his hand. Quickly, Link snatched the intricately made wand from him. Then, he lifted an arm. Before Grant managed to get a grasp of what was going on, a karate chop landed heavily on the back of his neck. Grant's eyes rolled back and he fell back onto his bed, unconscious. He had no idea of what had just happened. Link had the wand. Link admired the wand in his hand. It was 15 inches long, with rings of magic-imbued gold inlaid along its length. Tiny magic runes had been engraved throughout the wand, a new moon embellishing its tip. A virtual box appeared beside the wand as he admired it. Glowing text flashed through the box. New moon wand. Quality: fine. Effect: offensive spells gain plus 20% power. Note: coming-of-age gift from Duke Gridden to his second son, Grant. Link smiled. The God of Light made this gaming system really well. It has a true audio-visual feel to it, he thought. He had gotten the new moon wand. Taking out his pocket watch, it was now 9:50, he still had 40 minutes left. There was more than enough time. He walked out of the room and placed the tip of the new moon wand against the door lock. Activate the magician's hand. With another click, the bolt of the lock was destroyed. With the wand, the magician's hand had become much more powerful. No one would be able to open the door now, whether from the inside or from the outside. Even if Grant woke up halfway, he would have to find a different way to get out of the room. In another 40 minutes, no one in the academy would care about anyone else's affairs. He had the wand. That was the first step. Link made his way to the first floor of the apprentices' dorm. On the first floor, there were a few display cabinets. One of them contained a magic bracelet called the Band of Protection. It was a low-level magic item. The one who wore it could use the level 2 defensive spell, Guarding Barrier. Link had to have it. During this period, because of the low mana density, there were less powerful people around as compared to the future. A level 2 defensive spell was already considered to be very strong. Used well, it might even save his life. As the war progressed, powerful forces clashing caused dimensional cracks to appear across the Firaman continent. As a result, the mana density of the world would increase, and along with it, the number of combatants. By then, level 2 spells wouldn't do much at all. But his problem now was that a fully fledged magician lived on the first floor, Madame Fairfax. This kind old lady was a level 1 magician who was also the dorm supervisor. She was a light sleeper and woke up at the slightest noise. It would be much more difficult to steal the bangle with her there. But Link had a plan. He walked towards the stairs, but his footsteps paused before another door. Sentimental feelings welled up within him. Link blinked. The young man's memories replayed in his head. The apprentice's dorm was a mixed dorm. An apprentice called Celine, a commoner, lived in the room. She studied in the Magic Academy on a full scholarship thanks to her exceptional talent in magic. Within just 3 months, she had mastered 3 level 0 spells. Her future was bright and unfettered. According to his memories, Celine was a very beautiful girl. Even without makeup, she was the uncontested first beauty of the Magic Academy. But that wasn't the reason for his feelings. It was because she had been a great help to the original Link. When Grant had broken his arm, Celine had helped to look after him for more than a month, giving the excuse that she held some responsibility in the incident. Link was introverted and had almost no self-confidence. He had virtually no friends in the academy. He easily developed strong feelings for Celine within that month. "Ha ha, kid, is she your puppy love?" Link chuckled softly to himself. He wasn't willing to stick his nose in. He would be lucky just to make it out on his own. With one more person, the danger he faced would increase exponentially. Turning to leave, he took a step, then a second, and then a third. On the fourth step, he froze. He found that the sentimental feelings within him had become much stronger, so much so that he could no longer go on ignoring them. Fine, fine. Since it's your last wish, I'll do it. After all, I did take over your body. It was inexplicable, but when Link made that promise, those feelings vanished. He felt lighter, as if a burden had been lifted from his chest. Link knew that the original owner of his body had disappeared forever. What a besotted fool, Link thought, shaking his head. He would take this Celine away, but not now. Now, he had to steal, no, take the band of protection. Advent of the ARCHMAGE, Chapter 3, His Way of the Magician. If Audio Player doesn't work, press reset or reload the page. Tecnologia do Traduta, Chapter 3, His Way of the Magician. Translator, NoCommentary Studio Editor, NoCommentary Studio. On the first floor of the apprentices' dorm were 3 display cabinets. In the first cabinet, there was a document in the hand of the previous lord of Gladstone City. The second contained a beautiful, hand-wrought sword that was supposedly a gift from the dwarves. The last, of course, contained the magic bangle, made almost 2 centuries ago, by a level 10 master magician from the Magic Academy. With the low mana density in this world, no more legends, level 11 and higher, had appeared in a while. A level 10 master magician was already the pinnacle of existence in the mortal realm. He had been the pride and joy of the lower Magic Academy of Flemings. The things on display weren't actually that valuable. They were displayed just to show off the history of the Magic Academy. Which was why they had only been guarded with a simple spell that would sound an alarm if the display cabinets were destroyed. But Link knew that the display cabinet had a key. Better yet, he knew where it was. The hall on the first floor was much wider. Because it was late at night, it was just as dark as the hall on the floor Grant's room had been on. Link walked lightly to Madame Fairfax's door. He knocked lightly on the door. Bam, bam, bam. In the silence of the night, the knocking sound seemed especially loud. Madame Fairfax replied at the first rap. "Who is it?" She really did sleep lightly. Link made his voice sound urgent and anxious. "Madam, it's me, Link from room 309. I need to talk to you about something, it's urgent. Can you please open the door?" This was a kind old lady. She would never refuse help to anyone, even if it disturbed her sleep. Give me a second, I'm coming." Rustling noises came from inside the door. It was probably the old lady putting on some more clothes. The attire of the ladies of this world was quite complicated, and Madame Fairfax wasn't as nimble as she used to be. After about 3 or 4 minutes, Link heard footsteps from underneath the door. Link took a deep breath and raised the new moon wand. He pointed it squarely at the wooden door. Very soon, the lock turned and the door opened with a click. Madame Fairfax's wrinkled face appeared from behind the door. What happened? Before she even finished, the tip of Link's wand glowed. Slumber. Slumber. Level 0 spell. Effect. Makes people fall into a deep sleep. The stronger the opponent, the weaker the effect. Now this spell was considered real magic. Link thought back to the sensation of casting the spell. He found it fascinating. It had been just as easy as it had been in the game. If it's like that, it won't be too difficult to escape from Gladstone. Link felt more confident. The magic had used one of Link's Omni points. He had also used 2 mana points. But it was worth it. There was no way Link could have brought himself to knock this gentle old lady over the head. Madame Fairfax was just a level 1 magician, barely a true magician. Her magical talent was extremely common. Her level 1 qualification had been obtained out of sheer determination and time. Even now, just woken up and barely awake in the middle of the night, she hadn't even been in time to react when Link had cast the spell as fast as he could. With the flash of light on his wand, she crumpled, falling towards the ground. Lightning-quick spellcasting. That was how Link had managed to outshine the rest in the game legend. It was just as lethal in this world. Link quickly caught the old lady's frail body and moved her back into her room, placing her on the bed. He estimated that the spell's effects would last for an hour at the most. It was 9:55. He had enough time. Madame Fairfax was the dorm supervisor, so she held the key to the display cabinets. Link searched the room. Finally, he found a large ring of keys in a small chest in the dresser by the window. The old lady was a little forgetful, so she had labeled each of the keys. This made things much easier for Link. Easily finding the key, Link opened the 3rd display cabinet and grabbed the magic bangle. The bangle had been made of fine gold and purple copper alloys. As a result, it glowed a faint purple. Magic runes were engraved along its circumference. Because of all the mana within the runes, a silver glow emanated from within them. It was beautiful. The Band of Protection. Quality. Fine. Effect. Forms a level 2 barrier when activated. Uses. 0/1, limited use item. Note. Pride of the Academy. One of Master Magician Ailant's earlier works. An unfinished piece. Even though it can only be used once, it's enough for me. Link wore the bangle on his wrist. He had now obtained all the useful items he could from the apprentice's dorm. Flipping his pocket watch open, it showed the time, 9:58. There was half an hour left. He had one last thing to do, complete the last wishes of the original Link and save Celine. Taking big strides towards the 2nd floor, he didn't have to look around for her room. Link's legs seemed to bring him to Celine's door of their own accord. Bam, bam, bam. This was the 3rd time Link was knocking on a door tonight. There was no reply. The young girl slept soundly. Link sighed softly. He pointed the new moon wand at the lock and activated the magician's hand. Within 1 second, he heard a click and the door was unlocked. Link pushed it open, walking into the room. He closed the door and locked it behind him. Only then did he turn to look around the room. The room was very sparse. Besides the bed, the only other furniture was a worn-down looking dresser. On it, a mirror and a comb lay next to an open book. There was a half-eaten loaf of bread on the other side. Celine lay on the bed under a thin, tattered blanket. The blanket was too thin and barely able to retain heat. She was huddled tightly in a ball because of the cold. This was the difference between nobles and commoners. Even with a full scholarship, she had no choice but to live a frugal life. The original Link, as a noble, even with his lousy magical talent, didn't have to worry about things like heating and where his next meal came from. Link sat down on the chair by the table. Silently, he stared out of the window and into the night, waiting patiently. It was 10 o'clock. There was still half an hour before they could take the chance to escape into the chaos. To avoid having to explain too much, Link left Celine asleep for the moment. Walking over to the dressing table, he flipped through the pages of the magic book that laid on it. The book was called The Branches of Magic, an analysis. It was an advanced magic book. Link tried reading a few pages of it. Amazingly, Link found that he could not only recognize what was written but easily understand it too. He even found some errors in the magical theorems. His brain had become exceptionally good. He couldn't believe it. Thinking that it was a fluke, he flipped through a couple more pages. It wasn't just a lucky break. The book, which should have been completely foreign to Link, especially being from Earth, seemed just as easy to comprehend as a kindergarten storybook. Oh yes, the God of Light did say that he would fortify my soul so that I could travel through time and space safely. Could this be an effect of that? It seemed to be the only possible explanation. Link continued to read it, rapidly developing an interest in its contents. He flipped through the pages, reading each one quickly and understanding everything he came across. Not only that, but he also knew it by heart and developed his own interpretations of it. The cogs and wheels in his brain turned like a well-oiled machine, seemingly made for magic. By the time he had finished the book, Link had developed a rather comprehensive understanding of this new foreign world. According to the book, the world of Firaman was a lone island surrounded by an endless sea of mana. Mana emanated from the sea and drifted into the world of Firaman, nourishing all the creatures of the world. Magicians knew this phenomenon as soaking. The world was soaked in this sea of mana. Even though the drifting mana had nothing on the sea of mana, it made the world a different place, full of different forms and colors. The creatures of the world of Firaman used the mana to create a bright and colorful magic civilization. This was the way magicians saw the world. That's weird. I was an archmage in the game, but I feel as if I'm learning what magic really is for the first time. Link looked at the wand in his hand. He found that it wasn't difficult to understand the principles behind the wand. It was just a nifty little skill used to compress mana. He could sense the wand's deficiencies easily. If I could just study properly, in 3 months, no, just 1 month, I could make a better wand than this one. Link thought confidently. As a gamer, Link had known how to cast a spell, but not how the spell worked. The so-called Archmage had just been an honorary title by the other gamers. In this world, with the blessing of the God of Light, he had the resources to become a true Archmage. After I get out of Gladstone City, I must get some magic books. I'll study them when I'm not completing missions. I must get stronger. He could become very strong and master many spells very quickly even if he only relied on the Omni points. But there was a fatal problem in the spells provided by the gaming system. They were basic and run-of-the-mill, just like those in the game. The same spell would always be weaker when wielded by a player rather than by an elite boss, let alone an ultimate boss. All the powerful magicians had their own techniques. The same spells could be much more powerful than gamers in their hands. These supreme magic skills were built on a deep understanding of magic. It wasn't something that the gaming system could give. In his last fight with the Lord of the Deep Nazama had been able to use his superior magic skills to cast the level 19 spell, Finger of Death, instantaneously. There had been almost no delay before he cast the spell. At the time, up to 90% of the challenging team had been killed by Nazama's Finger of Death. The gaming system and the Omni points are just bonuses. I need to have my own way of the magician. Having figured out which way he would go in the future, Link felt more at peace. Taking out his pocket watch to look once more, he found that it was already 10:25. He didn't have much time left. Link turned and strode over to the bed. Patting Celine's smooth face lightly, he said softly, Celine. Wake up. Undeniably, she was beautiful. Her figure, facial features, and style were all admirably fine. No wonder the original Link had been besotted with her. For whatever reason, Link felt that her face was familiar, but he couldn't put a finger on where he had seen it before. That's weird, Link thought, feeling disorientated. Celine slept very soundly. She murmured, "Mother, let me sleep for a while longer." Her tone was like a little girl. Link smiled in spite of himself. But Celine came to her senses very quickly. Link felt her freeze. She turned her head swiftly, a pair of flawless sapphires fixing themselves on Link, not a wink of sleep left in them. Why are you in my room? She looked surprised, but not afraid. Link stepped back. His expression was serious. Get up quickly. We can't stay at the academy anymore. We need to leave now. What did you say? Celine was taken aback, but she still put on the clothes that were by her bed. Don't wear those. Wear some simple short robes and some pants. Link warned her. He looked out through the window. His pupils constricted. In the hazy moonlight, he could see many silhouettes swiftly moving through the shadows. The Dark Elf Assassins. They had begun. Dark figures moved quickly and silently. Two of them charged towards the apprentice's door.
俺が行こう。絶対に勝つんだ。ディアトリモン。
僕の番だね。行くぞー。ヒラノモン。
私も強くなるよ。セルモン。
ここは俺が行く。
おいらの番だね。
私が相手だよ。よろしくね。ハイドロプレッシャ
ここは俺が行く。
ー。喜んで手伝うよ。
デストラクションドア。
勝てたね。
said one of the men with shaved heads and wearing
俺が行こう。絶対に勝つんだ。ディアトリモン。
僕の番だね。
イラノモン。
おっと、俺の番だな。強くなる約束だ。
私の番漏れる力を。ドーベルモン。私も強くなるよ。セルモン。
Sin has always stuck with humans since ancient times. No matter who it is, humans always commit sins in their life. It is as that already becomes law and norm of the world itself. Even the heroes, king, or other righteous people also could not escape from committing sins. But what happens if it happens to the strongest person that only wants peace? Does he will escape from the evil clutches of sin, or he will break through it? Year XXXX. Huffed, huffed. Brother, why? What have I done to you? To poison me like this? Kakuka, Kahook. What you did is take everything for me. A hook. Now, come and die. As the other person attacked him once again despite his injuries. Nonsense. I never take anything from you. I always give everything to you, brother. Opening square bracket question mark closing square bracket. Shut it, Angus. Shut the fuck up. If you want to give me everything, then how about give me your life? Said the other person with the craziness in his eyes. But, why? I always love you, brother. So, why? Why did you do this, Victor? Angus. Exactly. Because of that you become Master's favorite student, become the strongest person, and even get Julie's love. Victor. What? I never loved Julie. Wait. Brother, is Julie the one that coerces you to poison me? Angus, enough nonsense. Now, die. As Victor launched an attack toward Angus. However, Angus still could repel the attack easily despite being poisoned. After a few exchanges move, ha ha ha. As expected, the one that inherited the Master's power. Even after being poisoned by devil tears, you still could move like that. But now that power is mine. Victor attacks his brother while ignoring his wound. During their exchange, from outside the house heard some noise. Book, grenades launched inside the house at once. Then, it explodes together. BOOMMM. At the last second before the huge explosion, Angus gathers all his chi power to protect his brother and himself. But, his brother already loses all his reason and keeps attacking him with the poisoned knife. A hook. Brother, are you okay? Angus? Ha ha ha. Just give up, brother. Just give me Master's power and I will end your suffering, Victor. Looking at his brother already beyond hope to save, Angus punches him in his heart at fast speed. Before closing, his brother crazed eye. ARRRGGHH. Losing his only brother, Angus release surges of massive chi and make an explosion towards the rubble around. Boom. You bastard. Why did you do this to my brother? As Angus looks at the approaching group. Who? Truly an embodiment of evil to survive that kind of attack while being poisoned. Said one of the men with shaved heads and wearing thin clothes. Angus, there is no other person that is stronger than me in this world. Said a muscular person. Foo foo foo. That's the price for ignoring me, said a beautiful woman with a devilish aura. Ha ha ha, look at that power. Now, I'm really hungry to eat you, said a crazed thin person holding an alcoholic jug. Looking as more and more practitioners of martial art come with hungry eyes towards him. He finally understood why they come after him. I see, so, all of you want is my master's legacy. But, did you think that poisoning me is enough to defeat 10,000 years of inheritance?